Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Split Decision. You're joined by me, Taku, and obviously my co-host, Thomas. Thomas.
Pick up.
And today we're joined by a very, very special guest. We're joined by Ben Madgen. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. My pleasure.
And obviously, before we get into it, we got to shout out the sponsors, Kremlin and MHGNY. Kremlin, they got their deals and new hoodies out, so make sure you guys go check that out. Use Taku10 and Tom10 for 10% off. And check us out, give us a look. We always shouting out other people, so make sure you check out all links in the description and all that goodness, I guess. And I guess obviously we'll get straight into it. And Ben, our first question for you is do you remember how old you were when you first started playing basketball and sort of that very first memory with playing it?
Yeah, so I started pretty young, just locally. I'm from the Barossa Valley in South Australia, so small kind of country area, big wine region, but AFL was the major sport, and basketball was played, by my friends and stuff, but no one really had aspirations to become a professional when we were younger. So we just pretty much played, all different sports, but from a very early age, I loved playing basketball. I really enjoyed the game. It was indoors. Footy was always freezing, Saturday morning. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It was a pretty quick game too. A lot of up and down. I loved, running and jumping as a youngster and getting after it. So I do remember, I think I was about maybe 7 years old when I first got exposed to basketball and really enjoyed it. But at that stage, like every kid, it was just for fun. And, we played and I tried out all different kinds of sports, tennis, AFL, like I said, athletics, cricket, and all different, soccer also. But yeah, then, as fate happens, it ended up being basketball, and I'm glad I chose that one for the long run.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, was there an age where you thought that you could definitely go pro in basketball?
Well, I always had a dream when I was young, but I didn't make very many teams. I always got cut. I was a really late bloomer. It probably wasn't until I went to college. Even when I was a development player with Adelaide before I went to college for a season, I was relatively unknown. I went to a basketball camp. It was like a tryout with maybe a 20 or so other players like myself around, 17, 18, 19 years old to become that development player. There was only 2 spots. And I just kind of had a great week and was able to get in there. And that was my first start. But before that, I loved playing and I loved, the thought of being a professional. But at that stage, I was nowhere near as good enough. And there was a lot of other kids, going to the AAS and junior development programs, SASI, ITC camps, and I got cut from virtually everything. So at that stage, if you asked anyone who would be a professional out of all the players, that were playing at that time, my name definitely wouldn't have been on the list. So, but I think it really helped me in the long run. I built up a really high resilience level and was able to handle a lot of adversity, which I was able to call upon throughout my professional career as well.
All right.
So obviously growing up, you look up did you have any sort of basketball idols that you sort of wanted to model your game after?
Yeah, well, being from Adelaide or just out of Adelaide, we used to go to the 36ers games now and then, and I used to love watching Brett Maher. He was a great player to watch and could shoot the ball really well and kind of tried to pick up little things that he did. So watching him firsthand was amazing. And other guys, that would come like Shane Hill. I remember, we're still friends now, and he coached me for a few years and he's been a great mentor. But I remember, watching him, he was so good, but I used to boo him all game. So, it's interesting how life works out. But yeah, seeing all those guys, Andrew Gaze, John Riley, all these great players from back when I was a youngster in the 90s, being able to watch them and the great game of basketball, that the product they put on the floor back then, was great to watch.
Other than basketball in general, did you have like a role model for you growing up?
Yeah, definitely my mum and dad. My dad was working a full-time job, and we have 4 kids. 3 of them play professional sport. Jack for Collingwood and my sister for Melbourne Boomers and the Opals, and we owe a lot to our parents. My older sister also was playing state softball and state netball at the time. Now she's a psychologist. She didn't take the sport route professionally, but she probably could have. So we had so many time commitments. It was an hour drive to Adelaide. So Dad ended up working for himself so that he could be flexible in his time. So, I mean, when I look at that now, me as a parent and that commitment that he gave us, and my mum also, that gave us the opportunity to be able to pursue our dreams. I mean, we owe a lot to them. So they're definitely, my biggest role models growing up, and I still, look up to them so much now.
Awesome.
Parents are really the MVP.
Yeah, for real.
Very, very, and I think even me looking back now, like my mom used to just drive around, and you don't acknowledge it back then because you're just sort of like, oh, they have to do this, but they don't have to. So it's really
you never know until you have to do it. It's one of those things.
Yeah, like wait till you're a parent. Now when they have appointments, they're like, oh man.
It's like, oh, can we do it tomorrow?
No. So you played high school basketball with better than lab in college, is that? Yeah. Yeah. So what was it like playing basketball there at the time?
Yeah, well, it wasn't like a sports school or anything like that. So, it wasn't like when you're in Sydney or Melbourne, you have these elite sporting schools which have incredible facilities. Now I see, especially I've been exposed to a lot in Sydney, like Shaw and Scott's, and their programs are incredible. But back when I was going to high school, we were practicing on outdoor courts, and it wasn't really serious. It was a knockout competition, so if you lost, you're out. We ended up winning the state championship one year, which was incredible for our small school. But we also had some great players. We actually played Joe Ingles and Brad Newley in the final. So for us to win was pretty incredible. Obviously, Joe's gone on to the NBA, and Brad's had an incredible career as well. But yeah, so it was a great school to go to, but sport wasn't the main option. You had to find other avenues, whether it was reps or different sporting clubs outside of school. It's a lot different system than the elite schools you get in the metropolitan area in most capital cities.
Right. I mean, so speaking like of that state championship, do you reckon that pushed you more towards like playing basketball in your future career?
Yeah, so that's a good question because at the time I was still playing AFL, and two of my uncles played in the AFL for Fitzroy and Footscray at the time. So I really wanted to play AFL as well, but at 17 I had to make a choice. And it was actually my nana begged me to play basketball because there's less injuries. And I ended up dislocating both shoulders, my ankle, broke my hand. So I don't know about that. But I also wanted to travel the world too. So, I had big aspirations. So I chose basketball. And, when you're young, you don't think about the slim chance of becoming a professional. You just you have tunnel vision. When you get to that age, and that's what I had. The dreams were lofty, but yeah, definitely success like that, the little taste of success in the state championship pushed me to want to pursue a career for sure.
Right.
You sort of mentioned this before, but you before heading off to college, you became a Adelaide 36ers development player. So what was that sort of first taste of NBL basketball like?
Yeah, well, that actually pushed me to go to college. So when I was, we're talking 2005. I was development player with Adelaide, and it was funny because then Brett Maher was still on the team, Willie Farley, guys like that, some great players. But I was going to uni. I just finished year 12, and I was going to uni, and I passed all my classes, the assignments, but I got all failed. I passed one class because the teacher liked basketball, but because you had to go to a certain amount of tutorials, and I couldn't, and I explained to all the teachers and that, but it wasn't athlete friendly at Adelaide University at the time. So I got all incomplete fails. So I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And there weren't many players at college at the time. I mean, now you got over 200 student athletes, but back then, I mean, there might have been a handful. So I started to pursue that route, and I had to first send emails. I remember Marty Clark sent me a list of schools. It was like 300 schools on this big spreadsheet. And so you email the school you like. I was just looking up on Google Maps, like where's nice? Oh, this school's like near the beach in Florida. Yeah, I'll message them. I had no idea what I was doing. So I was emailing around, and then they would be like, oh, okay, send me a DVD. So there was no YouTube clips, so you couldn't just Dropbox your game. Yeah, you physically had to send a DVD over. And whether they watched it or not, who knows? So I was sending hundreds of DVDs. And then finally, I was talking to teams. It was like not even mobile phone. It was like hand, showing my age now. But and then one of my friends that I was playing ABA with, he just came back from college, and he said, "Oh, there's this really good coach called Dick Mitras. He just moved to Augusta State. You should talk to him." So I talked to him, and had no idea really where I was going. I went to Augusta, Georgia, and at first I thought I was going to Augusta, Maine, which is like near New York. Instead, I was like right down south. So I went over pretty naive, but ended up being the best decision I could have made. I was able to start all 4 years. I had my jersey retired, broke all the scoring records, and set me up for a long professional career.
Right. So speaking about that time in college, what was like that first, do you remember the feeling of stepping on the court for like a college team and like the atmosphere around it?
Yeah, it's amazing atmosphere, and I wish that the NBL would employ some of the the crowd antics and stuff they have. You got the fan base under the ring that's just like crazy. The student section, then you got like the band. So when the atmosphere maybe is a little dull, the band just strikes up and starts playing some great hits, and it was just an amazing experience. Obviously, all the student athletes are really enthusiastic, and the students are really enthusiastic, and you can really build a great atmosphere. But I think you could employ some of that in the crowds here. I think it would be awesome. But it was such a good experience. I remember being super nervous when I first played my first few games, but I was just lucky to be in a really great team for all 4 years. We were really successful. We made the Elite Eight and Final Four, and made the national championship game in 2008. We ended up losing up 12 at halftime and lost, but it was just a great experience, and I met lifelong friends. Was able to get my college degree, so for me it was a really good life choice.
So you sort of got your dream at the same time, getting to sort of travel the world in a sense. So was it like a big culture shock for you moving from Australia to the US?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was in Georgia, so the biggest change was the food. Like everything was fried. So, in Australia, we don't fry that much. And I was just struggling to find some food. So I had to learn how to, cook for the first time, really, by myself. I was the first time, being completely independent. So it was a big culture shock, but luckily the community that I joined were really great, and welcomed me into their family. So that really helped. And my kind of thinking going over there was if, basketball doesn't work out and I don't, become a professional after college, living that 4 years overseas, having an amazing time, and then getting a college degree at the end of it as well is, it's fantastic.
It all works out in the end.
Yeah.
So when you left the Jaguars, you left as the all-time leading scorer, as you said before, and for the team and the Peach Belt Conference. What you won? Sorry, I'm messing up my words. Sorry. So you left as the all-time leading scorer, right? We're really bad. We always fumble in our words here. It's just
not me today. It's you today. It's not me today.
Last week it was awful. Like me today, I can't get it right. Hey, let me just simply put it. What did the award mean to you to leave with the all-time award?
Yeah, well, it recently just got broken, so I don't have it anymore. It lasted for about close to 10 years. But someone from ASU broke the Peach Belt scoring champ too, so that was awesome. I'm glad to see he did it. He's playing, I think, in Denmark maybe now, or Holland, somewhere. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing. This young, skinny Australian kid came over. I was the only white guy on the team for most of my time there, and just loved it, and was able to be around some great teammates and great coaching staff, and being able to be successful in another country, another culture, gave me great confidence going, into the next team that I was going to join, which was Sydney. But yeah, I think it was really special, but it was more the team awards that we were able to be so successful throughout that period that I really cherish at the time and especially now.
Right.
You mentioned before you left the school with your number 1 jersey also being retired. What did it sort of mean, leaving with a retired jersey as well?
Yeah, well, that was really surreal because it was the first time ever, and I think they did it because they knew that I wouldn't be able to fly back, straight away to do the presentation. So it was a complete shock. It was before our last home and away game before the playoffs, really. And they just kind of had this presentation, and I was just in shock. And luckily, my dad was able to come over. He knew about it and kept it quiet. So, it was incredible to be able to share it with him as well. And, it was a great honour to, if I ever go back, which hopefully one day I do, that the jersey's hanging in the rafters, I think it would be pretty cool to see.
So, looking back on your college career now, what do you reckon your favourite memory from your time in college would be?
Definitely making the national championship game. We had a great team that year, and we were so close to winning it. But the team we played, they won it the year before too, and they were I think they handled the pressure game a little bit better than us. And but looking back on that season, to be one of the last 2 teams there was an incredible moment, and the whole build up to that, you stay where the Springfield, Massachusetts, where the Basketball Hall of Fame is. So you get to visit that and, play the Elite 8, and that was really, really special.
So before we go on to your professional career, also got to look at your international resume as well.
Yeah.
So you're selected, being selected to the Burma squad. What did it mean for you to get selected and play for Australia?
Yeah, it was incredible. Everyone's dream, I think, growing up is to represent your country. So to be, first included in the squad after my rookie year, Brett Brown was coaching, and we played China and Singapore. It was just an incredible experience. I was one of the young guys on the team and just tried to soak up as much as I could, from Brett and the other guys that were playing. Getting some minutes, it was really surreal. When you play for Australia, you kind of, everything is just, for your teammates and your country, and you just, whatever minute you get or second out there, you just go your hardest and, put it all on the line. And I think playing for Australia is really special because it's such great camaraderie. We have this awesome song we sing after the game. Can't really repeat the lyrics here, but you know, it's just a really good vibe. Just spending, you know, the couple of weeks away with the guys and getting to know a lot of the guys that you play against on a weekly basis better. You know, it was really good as well to be able to, you know, meet new people and share some special moments with them.
Right. So do you remember what that initial feeling was when you stepped on the court for the Boomers, or like putting on the jersey?
Yeah, I mean, I was super nervous. I remember that. Just trying not to mess up. And I remember we were playing China, and they had this crazy shooter that they would just screen for. Like, it's like 100 screens in offense, and I was chasing him around everywhere. And I remember fouling him on a 3, which wasn't great. Probably wasn't my best, you know, sequence of basketball, but just being out there and being a part of that team and putting on the green and gold singlet, you know, it was something that I'll never forget. And, you know, would tell my kids one day when they're old enough to understand. You know, they probably won't believe me, but I've got some photos for proof.
So unfortunately, you sustained a right ankle dislocation following game 1, pretty sure.
Yeah, well, I was in the shoot around after game 1, which was even worse.
So what was it like having to sort of rehab and coming back from that injury?
Yeah, that was a really disappointing injury because, you know, that year I had led the league in scoring and I was poised to, you know, make a push for the World Cup team. Or in my mind, that was my end goal. But unfortunately, you know, I landed on Gibbo's foot in just a shoot around and ankle just came out of socket. So I remember just looking down and the sole of my shoe was facing me. And, you know, then from there it was like 5-6 months rehab, and I kind of missed that opportunity to make a push for the World Cup. But, you know, that happens. It happens to so many players. You know, it's right place, right time. Sometimes you just need a little bit of luck or, you know, someone, you know, my injury probably opened the door for someone else to step into it. So, yeah, it was hard, but, you know, I have done a lot of rehab in the past, you know, with 2 shoulder surgeries, my foot, my hand. So it's just part of the game. The unfortunate part is the injuries, but I mean, you know, you have to play hard and you know, injuries is just something that unfortunately happens. But yeah, it's always disappointing getting injured.
So now moving on to your professional career. In the 2011-2012 NBL season, you signed for the Sydney Kings. Was there any reason you specifically chose them?
Yeah, well, I finished college in 2010. And then I thought, you know, it would be easier to make the NBL. But it turned out to be quite difficult. I see a lot more teams signing younger guys now, which is great out of college. But back when I was signing, there just wasn't that many guys coming out of college, you know, guys in out of the AAS or something like that would usually get a look in first. But so I thought it would be much easier, but I ended up signing with Sydney as the 11th man, and there was only 10-man rosters. So Benny Knight at the time was injured, so it was pretty much an injury replacement. That was my start.
Right.
And then I felt like if I just got my foot in the door, I'd be able to prove myself and earn my spot. But I had a good pre-season, and then after my 4 games, Benny Knight came back and I got dropped. So I thought my basketball career was over. I thought that was it. But then we had 2 weeks till our next game. We had a bye, so I missed 1 game. And I've never trained hard. I trained like a man possessed. And I thought to myself, I kind of made a pact, you know, if I get to the end of the season and that was my only season in professional basketball, I can look at myself and say, you know, I gave it my all. But it just wasn't meant to be. So that was my attitude for the whole year, and I ended up going on to win Rookie of the Year. So it worked out for me with that kind of mindset. But yeah, that was how I got my start, and that's why I chose Sydney, because virtually at the time that was my only option.
Right.
So you watched the NBL growing up. So what was it like stepping on the court for the first time? and like just in that atmosphere, in that space?
Yeah, well, when I was first starting, I wasn't getting that many minutes, so I was kind of spot minutes. And I remember we played Melbourne in Melbourne for our first game, and we won. Then we lost our next 14 straight. So we thought it was going to be a good season until about 10 games in. But yeah, so the first time stepping out, I think, was just really exciting. But I remember more vividly when we came home. We played on Friday night, and then we had, I think, a Saturday night or Sunday game, and they had packed out the entertainment centre in Sydney. So there was about 11,000 people, and they were super loud and excited. We were back. The Kings were back. It was the first season back, and I just remember I think I shot a couple of foul shots, and I was just like thinking, like, don't airball. I was so nervous, but we ended up losing. But I think getting that game out of the way and having that huge stage early on in my career, kind of poised me for later, big crowds, big moments.
Right. So you spoke about this before, but you sorry, let me backtrack a bit. So coming to the league, was there anyone that like took you under their wing as a rookie?
Well, we halfway through that season, we signed Mark Dickel. We were in need of a point guard at the time. Lukey Cooper, he went down with a broken foot, and he was amazing for me. He would work me out before every practice. I love to do extra work, and he was always willing to give up his time. He really pushed me to go to Europe, even from my rookie year. He's like, your goal should be to go play in a really big club in Europe. And so that kind of lit my fire to pursue the European career, which was later on in my career. But yeah, he just like to talk to him. He played for some big clubs over in Europe, played all over. He played for the Running Rebels in Las Vegas, UNLV college career. So he was super knowledgeable, and he really did take me under his wing. And I'm forever grateful for that.
Right.
And you mentioned this before, so you won the NBL Rookie of the Year award. What did it mean to win this?
Well, I think it was one of my proudest moments because, when you think of Rookie of the Year, you think of guys pretty much, come in and have great minutes from the start, able to prove themselves, probably come in with a, highly touted player. But, I came in as the 11th man, not even on the roster. And then to be dropped after 4 games, about halfway through the season I started, I was able to push my way into the starting lineup, and then, had some really big games towards the back end of the year. So I think for me to be able to, look back on the journey and all the obstacles and challenges and adversity that I faced that year, that was, pretty special to be named Rookie of the Year when, other guys on other teams had, been proper, I guess, smooth sailing season. Every season has ups and downs, but, they had solid minutes and, a solid role from the beginning where I had to kind of forge mine out and, kind of like just banging my head through walls and just going as hard as I could every day at practice, and it did pay off. And if I was on a 1-year deal, if it didn't work out that year, I probably wouldn't have got picked up by anyone else. No one else would have saw me, saw what I could do on a basketball floor. So, I was thankful to the coaching staff for pushing me and believing in me and giving me that first chance and letting me show my basketball skill set on the floor.
Right. Did you have a favorite memory from your rookie year?
Oh, that's a good question. I think when we played Adelaide in Sydney, we had a great win, and growing up supporting Adelaide and then being the development player at Adelaide, I thought I would play for Adelaide, finishing college, and just beating them in Sydney. They were a good team that year. We played great. I had one of my better games for the season, and it was just a great feeling. I think beating that team that you always idolize when you're younger.
Right.
Hey, power when I make the NBA and I beat the Timberwolves.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that.
Exactly.
Russ must be feeling beaten OKC.
So moving on to the 2012-13 season, you were named the NBL Most Improved Player and earned All NBA First Team honors. What was it like to scoop both of these awards?
Yeah, well, that was so Shane Hill took over halfway through the 2011-12 season, and then he coached the first full season, and I really just loved his system. So, it was great for guards. I learned so much off him, obviously being a fantastic shooter himself, and he pushed my game to the next level. He challenged me. We used to work so hard. Off seasons were crazy hard. We'd run on Coogee Beach, and we'd go to a individual workout, and I loved it. I really enjoyed his workouts and the way he pushed me. We just got along. We had kind of similar mentality on the basketball floor, both pretty fiery, so it just seemed to work. And that year we made the playoffs for the first time in my career too. So it was just a really successful season, and the awards were nice, but definitely the making the playoffs. We ended up going down to New Zealand, who won it that season, but it was a really good feeling to be able to make the playoffs for the first time and playing that kind of pressure.
Right. So you also led the NBL in scoring for that season. Was there any particular approach that you took to that allowed you to do this?
Well, I think I really believed in myself that season because of the work that I put in. So I get all my confidence from my preparation. So if I feel like I've done, all the work, put up all the extra shots, and I feel like I'm going to have a great game. And I had a really good preseason, and under Shane, we worked so hard. I always felt confident going into the games. Scoring is always nice, but I think that year our system was just really flowing. I got some really good looks out of there, and I played with some really nice players that, we shared the ball. Everyone kind of took their opportunities, and, when I wasn't having a good game, everyone else would step up, and I'd always try and put my best foot forward as well to help my teammates, get some good looks too. So it was just a really nice system to play under, suited me. I was heavily involved, and I really enjoyed that season. But approach-wise, I've always taken the same approach to every game. I always play like it's my last game, because you never know. You have a really bad injury, or something doesn't go your way. That could be it. So you never know. I was lucky enough to play over 10 years, but like I said, it could have only been one season. Just a little bit of luck. And so I just never took it for granted, and always prepared myself the best I could. Just went out there and gave it my all.
So in 2015,
yes,
that is a year. So in 2015, you left the Sydney Kings and moved on to European basketball. Was this like a time where you thought it was like your time to go and play European basketball sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I had a few opportunities to go in the off season. I had a contract in Turkey. I had a contract in Spain the year before, but I would have had to leave Sydney. I was a captain at the time, and I didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. So I wanted to see out the year. I always had a dream and aspirations to go and challenge myself. And in the NBL, I'd been playing against the same guys, for 5 or 6 years. And I really felt like it was time for me to challenge myself. And I had a dream of playing in the Euro Cup or Euro League, the best competition in Europe. I didn't realise how hard it was to get in there at the time. So my first year I went to Belgium, and my agent said it's a great showcase league, really fast-paced, a bit like the NBL. It will suit your style, and then, you can go into a bigger and better league the next year. So I led the league in scoring in Belgium, and I thought I'd definitely get a Euro Cup gig. And it took so long. Like, till August, and I was super stressed. Sydney Kings called again. They had new ownership with Jeff Van Groningen, and Gazy was the coach. They gave me a good offer. I almost took it, but my wife said, "Don't be silly." She was pregnant at the time, 7 months, and said, "You came over to play Euro Cup, Euro League, so stick with it." And a week later, I signed with Liet Kablis in Lithuania, and I had just had the best time playing, Euro Cup, traveling all over Europe. It was a dream come true, and to play against guys, like Alexei Shved from Russia, and all these guys, Bayern Munich, Kimki, all these big teams, and challenge myself that way was, after I finished my basketball career, I really felt like I did everything I wanted to do because I pursued the European career.
Right. So speaking of that European basketball, how would you describe the play style over there in Europe or in Belgium?
Yeah, so each country's pretty different. So Belgium was quite fast paced, like I said, more similar to the NBL. So was Germany, a little bit more structured, but Lithuania was extremely structured. So they're really smart basketball IQ. They run a lot of great sets, less free flowing. So my first month there, I really struggled. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it there. So we'd be running the play, and I'd find myself open. I'd knock down a shot, shoot it, and go in, and I'd get dragged, and the coach is screaming at me. And I'd be like, "Went in," and he's like, "The play's not for you, if I drew it up for this guy, it's for this guy." So I was like, okay. So it didn't matter. And then once I kind of got used to that, I felt like if I can adapt here, I could play anywhere in the world. And I ended up adapting there, and my coaching staff started to have more confidence in me and my abilities. And I had one of my best seasons for my career. And we had a really successful campaign. Euro Cup campaign, and we made the final of the Lithuanian Cup and the Lithuanian League. I played Brock Modem in the final that year. He was playing for Zagros, another Aussie. I really ended up enjoying that season. It was one of the most enjoyable seasons I've played in.
Moving to Belgium and all around Europe from the US and Australia, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that was a big difference, big culture shock. I mean, the language was probably the hardest thing. Belgium were in the French-speaking part. Lithuanian language is extremely hard to pick up. German, I did a little bit of in school, so I could, order some food and count to 100, things like that, the basics. But luckily, a lot of people spoke English, but we were a bit old. Well, I was older, when I went to Europe than say when I went to college. So I've been living by myself for a long time. I went over with my wife, which was great to be able to share that together. So I was more mature than I was when I first, embarked on my overseas adventure of the States. So it wasn't too bad. We tried to enjoy it. Whenever we got a day off, we'd go see a different city, or after the season, we'd always go on a pretty big holiday and see as much as we could of Europe, because you never know when you're going to get back there. We really enjoyed it, seeing different places. For me, basketball was great, and living, the basketball dream. But for families, it is tough because I'm always on the road, and my wife, with the kids locked inside. It's minus 25 in winter in Lithuania, so you can't really go outside. So, I owe her a lot for her sacrifices for me over that time. And that's why I'm glad, now that I've finished basketball, to be able to give a bit back to her too, so she can pursue her career. So we did have some good times, but also, there were some definite challenges, living in Europe.
Yeah, so speaking about your time in Lithuania, you guys reached the finals but lost to BC Zalgiris.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to say it. How did you reflect on that final series? I'm really bad at pronunciation. It's just how it is.
That's tough. Lithuania is hard. We made the final 2 years in a row. I played for a different team. I played for Lietuvos Rytas my second year, but Zagros is an incredible team, well drilled. They had a coach, Juskavicius, who was a legend of the game. They were super well drilled. They have an incredible stadium, holds 16,000. They're lighting flares in the stadium, and it was really, really great experience. But to beat them in a 7-game series is extremely tough. So both years we lost, I think 4-2. Great memories, and to make it that far is really tough in Lithuania because the league's so hard. So it was disappointing to lose, but you look back and it was a real big accomplishment to make the final.
Looking back on your entirety in Europe, what would you say was your favorite moment out of all of it?
Oh, I reckon definitely playing in the Euro Cup competition. You're playing such big teams, such big names each week, and traveling. I traveled from Macedonia to Portugal to Spain to Germany, Russia. Playing in Moscow, just playing everywhere was so exciting, and to see all these different places and different styles of basketball, and to be able to play well. I really felt like each game I was living my dream of playing at that level. The NBA is extremely hard to get into, as you know. So to be in Euro Cup or Euro League, it's like the tier under the NBA, and for me that was, I think, my reach kind of my potential, and I think playing in that competition was I have some great memories.
Right. So early last year, you returned to Australia and you signed with Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Was there any specific reason for coming back to Australia, or was it just you wanted to, just live back in Australia, settle down?
Yeah, well, we had 2 kids at that stage, and we had no support network, so it was getting quite tough, to be able to live and for me to keep traveling everywhere. So Melbourne came with a great offer for us to come back, and it was about January, February. So we were able to, organise everything. We had a house, everything, within a month. So when we came back to Australia, we just moved straight in. Everything was set up. So that was really good. Took the stress out of the move. My brother and sister in Melbourne. So that was really nice to be able to see them. We've been, apart for so long. So that was a big plus. That was, Tommy Greer being the CEO. We've been talking for, since I went to Europe, pretty much, about an opportunity if they could get a team up that he would love me to come play. So it all just ticked the boxes, and the heartland of basketball was exciting, and starting a new franchise, and when Creaky signed, I talked to Creaky, and we were pretty pumped to play together, and really happy that I got to spend the first year there, and under different circumstances would have loved to have stayed, but there's time in life, got to put your family first, and that time was this year, and but really happy that I got to at least share 1 year with the great fans and great teammates and coaches we had there.
Yeah.
You also, during that season, you reached your 150 games played in the NBL mark. What did it mean, like, hitting that mark in, like, the league you watched growing up?
Yeah, it was, I had no idea about how many games I'd played, but when someone told me that week leading up, and then we just had a great victory. I remember we were on a bit of a slide at the time. We really needed a win, and we got a big win in Brisbane, and we ended up playing some really good basketball again until probably the end of the season. We struggled a bit, but just getting that win with the guys, it was incredible. Milestone for me, and one that I always remember.
Right. So you guys unfortunately missed out on the finals. Like, how did you guys take that, not making the finals that season?
Yeah, it was tough. I think, we had a good start. We had a lot of home games though, but A few injuries, and I think, our team was kind of built around having a big centerpiece, kind of shot blocking guy that was going to be Keith Benson, but it didn't quite work out that way. And, big guys like that are hard to come by, that can control the paint. So I think, it was a bit difficult for us defensively at times without that big anchor. Dane had a fantastic season. I thought he was really, really good and strong. But I think, that's something that they can, look at for this season, getting stronger, someone to complement Dane as well. But yeah, missing the playoffs was always disappointing, especially the team we had. I thought were really talented. But it's hard to bring a team together in only 1 year. We didn't have Creaky the whole pre-season, who's with the Boomers, and then Ty obviously missing the probably 2 or 3 months with the hamstring. So we had some chemistry difficulties, trying to integrate guys in and out, and a lot of things need to go right in the NBL for you to make the playoffs. I think we lost maybe 10 games by under 5 points. So if you really add up, even if you win half of those, you're probably in the playoffs. So it's very, very tough league and a great league to be a part of. But you look at the teams that are always successful, like Perth. They've had that core group together for so long. New Zealand, when they had that great run, they've always had the core group. So hopefully Southeast Melbourne can keep a core group of guys together, and in a couple of years, if not this year, start really building towards being a consistent playoff contender.
Right.
So early this year, you announced your retirement from basketball. Was it sort of tough to come to the decision and leave the game?
Yeah, it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made because, I still had contract offers. I had, 5 contract offers that from different teams that I could have taken, and that's always hard, when you've got options. But it's also nice, to go out knowing that your team still wanted you. But because it wasn't about me, it was easier than than if I was just, do I want to play or do I not want to play? I just knew in my heart that it was the right decision. But yeah, it didn't make it any easier. I still miss it a lot. But it was just what had to be done. And I haven't looked back. I've been super busy and focused with the kids and the family. And I'm enjoying the next phase of life.
Right. So you've had a very impressive playing career. When you're looking back at it now, what was that one memory that's really stuck with you?
I think always my first ever NBL game. Coming from probably like I said as a junior, and I had some coaches really doubt me and my abilities, and I got told by the sassy coach at the time that I was a dime a dozen and there were a million players like me, and things like that, that I used for motivation. But I thought, other guys that maybe, didn't believe in themselves as much or back themselves, that would have been almost a career ender at an early age. So people like that to really show, that I could do it and that I did it. Just to step on that floor for that first game was an incredible moment.
So now on to some sort of followers questions that we have for you.
Yeah.
The first one, a very important one that me and Tom take quite seriously. Who is your NBA GOAT?
Well, my favorite player forever has been Dirk Nowitzki. He's definitely not the GOAT, but he's a legend and he's definitely my favorite player. But, of all time, I think LeBron is an incredible player and he's right up there, but I have to go with MJ. Jordan was a real pioneer. He put the NBA on the map, really. I think LeBron's probably the most gifted athlete probably of all time, I'd say. One of. but yeah, MJ was just, super clutch and the things that he did on the floor. I think now, the younger generation kind of forget about how good MJ was.
This guy.
But I mean, you can't, go wrong with LeBron either. Especially if he wins a couple more championships. But I think it's hard to compare until both guys are finished. See what LeBron's been doing his last few years, but he's 35 and doesn't look like he's slowing down. So we'll see. He could easily win a few more championships, but yeah, it's always a good debate.
All right, Dirk's the people's champ, though.
You can't hate Dirk. You can't hate Dirk.
Nah.
Yeah, everyone loves Dirk.
I mean, he did beat LeBron, but
Exactly. That was a good run.
Oh man, that was pain for me. I don't know. Anyway, so moving on. So fans only see professional athletes at games when you're working out. But what's something you guys are doing that fans don't see? Behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, I think one of the most important things, underrated things, and guys that I see their bodies break down all the time is recovery. So, recovery is very time consuming, takes a lot of discipline. It's about what you eat, drink. I bought Normatec boots and hip compressions, from the TheraBand work you do at home to the extra stretching. You have to be super disciplined. And I think that's why, at 35, I could still play a few more years. My body feels great. And I attribute that to just having a stringent recovery routine. It's not pretty. It's, it doesn't get put on Insta very much because, who wants to watch someone stretch or, ice bath or whatever. But it is super important. And I know, LeBron and guys like that, their longevity is because they look after their body. It's been reported LeBron spends like $2 million or something a season on his body, like ridiculous. But look at him. He's still playing at such a high level. And that's what really, you don't see the highlight mixtapes of recovery sessions, but they are super important. And I think, even if I knew what I knew now when I was younger, I think, I could have got even more out of my body with, building athleticism and the little things even you can do in the weight room, proprioception exercises and stuff like that. Super important. But yeah, that's the one advice I'd say, that people don't really see, but it is important.
Right.
So, do you have when you were playing? Do you have a specific pre-game routine, like what's the word? Superstitions that you'd have to go through?
Yeah, it was weird. I always used to tap my head 3 times for a 3-pointer, like just up before. Like if I would do anything, had to be in threes, which is weird. But yeah, not too much. I used to. I used to be super stringent. My wife laughs now because once we had kids, it was just like try and get a good night's sleep. That was like the pre-game. But before, it was like I had to have chicken and veggies the night before and pasta and, had to have a certain amount of sleep. This had to be here. Everything had to be in order. But now it's just towards the latter stage of my career, I didn't even end up having any superstitions. Although I did still have one is when I set up a charity for sick children to come to the games, this young child with cancer, he gave me his little good luck charm. And it was an incredible moment to say thank you. So before every game, I would kiss that, and it was in my bag for probably like about 7 or 8 years. So I still have that now, and that's definitely always stuck with me as a pre-game routine.
Right. I mean, the sleep one as well. That's vital.
Yeah, it is.
Tom's favorite saying is don't sleep on sleep.
Don't sleep on sleep.
Very true. Smart man.
You gotta listen to me, kids. Don't sleep on sleep. That's the only advice I can give people in life.
Very, very underrated. Very underrated.
Like, what kids ask me all the time, what's your advice? Don't sleep on sleep. That's it. Where are we up to? Right. I just had a brain fade. So, thanks, Taku.
You're good.
So,
You're good.
when you're not when you weren't playing basketball, what was a hobby outside of that you like to do in your spare time?
I love to golf. I don't get to play as much, but that was I just find it really therapeutic. You're out the golf course, your phone's not ringing, no worries. Still doing terrible shots, but it's still fun for me. So I really enjoy just walking, out in kind of nature there with trees, grass, and it's different from the fast-paced life you live usually. Another one is I love the water. I always try and get to the beach and just go for a swim or just lay on the sand and relax. I think listening to the waves. They're probably the two things I really love doing outside of basketball.
Yeah.
I think another just as important question: how has retirement been treating you?
Yeah, well, different because as soon as we got to Sydney, we were in lockdown, so we couldn't really do a whole lot. But ever since then, I've just been taking the boys, especially Dave, to all his appointments, and got the kids into your swimming lessons. Full dad life, really.
Right.
Looking after, did some stuff around the house. I'm the least handiest guy alive. For me, this is a big deal. But yeah, I've just been trying to focus as much time as I can on my family, and that's been super nice after being on the road and living such a stringent life with basketball, where you're watching everything you do, where you eat, how much you sleep, and now I can kind of relax a bit more and just enjoy life outside of that bubble of professional sports. So far I'm enjoying retirement life, but I know as soon as I see a few games, NBL games on TV and stuff, I'm gonna get that itch. Wish I was playing.
Right. So, I mean, our final question. I gave my best advice for kids for the future, but if you were to give any advice for Australian kids who want to play basketball in the future, or any person that wants to play basketball in the future, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, well, the biggest one that I ever took out of sport was is just to be able to. I know it sounds kind of a cliche, but it's just to really work as hard as you can. Each day I tried to improve on something, and like I said, I got all my confidence from my preparation. I felt like I deserved to play, or never a sense of entitlement, but when I got my shot, I was gonna kill it because I'd done all the work, and I always felt like I was ready for any opportunity that came my way. There was times where I sat on the bench for games, didn't get a run, but kept working as hard as I could for that opportunity. So I think you really just keep working as hard as you can each day, but also enjoy it. Because a lot of workouts now and stuff for kids is super intense, and everything, you go to rep training's intense, and you go to club training, super intense, and I still want people to really enjoy the game. And I think that not making a lot of those teams growing up, it didn't burn me out. I see a lot of kids now that they kind of get burnt out when they get to the professional kind of time when they could be professionals, and I think sometimes that is because they went so crazy at everything and didn't really get the chance to enjoy it as much. So whatever you're doing, even if you have a really intense workout afterwards, play. We still do it as professionals. You play a game of horse or something at the end, bring a bit of excitement and joy back, and some shooting games with your friends, and really get some banter going and have fun that way as well. So, that's what sport's about. It is fun, professional. We're still having fun out there, and as kids and players with aspirations to become professional, you still got to have a lot of fun.
Right. And if there's three things to take away from this podcast, 3 bits of advice I've taken away: work hard, take care of your body, don't sleep on sleep.
Don't sleep on sleep.
Those are the 3 things I've taken away from this.
I knew you were going to chuck that one in there.
I had to.
I'll give my advice next week, guys. It's all right.
Yeah, you got to think of something.
I can't think of anything right now, so I gotta push it back.
I'm gonna get the logo put somewhere. I'm gonna get like LeBron to say it, and I'm gonna be like, I taught LeBron that.
Hey, brother, this guy. Anyway, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. This is an amazing episode. What do I normally say? Oh yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you guys give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. That does absolute bits. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Thanks a lot, boys. Had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Matt.
Cheers, guys.
See you soon.